Members of 5th Ward joined selected officials and medical experts for the 5th Ward Cancer Cluster Summit. Throughout the past several years, this Houston community has seen a high incidence of cancer cases, and the entire community is concerned and looking at factors that might be contributing to this trend. After testing in 2022 and earlier this year, Houston Health Department discovered dioxin in dozens of soil samples that were taken from a former Union Pacific rail yard in Houston's 5th Ward. Dioxin is a chemical compound that takes a long time to break down. It's highly toxic and causes cancer as a result. According to the city of Houston, a fourth of the sample collected just recently at the site last year exceeded the level for children. This is a scary part. And that is the reason that residents now fear that these chemicals are causing cancer in their children. Earlier, the United States Environmental Protection Agency (EPA) and Union Pacific announced a pact recently that they will conduct environmental tests at an old rail yard in Houston's 5th Ward, a decision that comes after city tests revealed cancer-causing dioxins in dozens of samples from nearby neighborhoods. Point to be noted. This new testing came months after city-ran tests found dioxins in 42 soil samples near the Kashmir Garden and 5th Ward. Now, what are dioxins? Let me tell you over here. Dioxins are highly toxic and can harm the human immune and endocrine system, causing reproductive issues and cancer, according to EPA themselves. According to a document obtained by the Houston Chronicle last year, Southern Pacific previously used the site as a wood treatment facility. Workers for decades used creosote, a hazardous substance and likely carcinogen, to preserve wood ties and which ties the wood among itself and prevents them from rotting. The creosote was mixed with other industrial waste during that wood treatment process, and that was the point when toxics get into the ground and water below the ground. Wood treatment stopped at the rail yard in 1984. In the years since, the mostly black and low-income residents of the area around the site have demanded better cleanup at the site and said they don't feel safe thinking the water is toxic. According to the release, the new agreement came after EPA granted a request from Union Pacific to conduct faster sampling and testing of the site. Union Pacific will pay for that testing. The release didn't say when the testing would begin or when the results would be available. Still nothing yet as yet. Union Pacific has owned the site of the former rail yard since 1997. After the results of the city's test were released in September, Union Pacific said that attributing the dioxin solely to operations at the rail yard was unreasonable and inaccurate. The question is, when is it going to be enough? When are we going to find solution? Today, we have Stephen K. Brown too from the Clean Energy Fund of Texas Incorporation to discuss this issue. Thank you, Stephen, for joining me today in my show, Truth Be Told. My first question would be, how is this thing happening and for how long this has been happening and nobody knew about it, and we have to wait all this time when people have started having rampant cases of cancer?
Yeah, the issue around environmental justice started, frankly, at the turn of the century in the 1900s. Once the United States decided to redline certain communities and neighborhoods, based on race. So to suggest that certain communities were worth investing in, others weren't, the predominant impact on that on black neighborhoods meant that those neighborhoods would be the ones that will be surrounded by industry, by power centers like coal plants and gas plants. But those will be the areas that will be directly connected to industry, which further depressed the values of those communities and further perpetuated this flight out of those communities for those folks and families who had the means to leave.
Yeah.
And so you stick and you really are sucking communities and people and families into certain parts of the country, like in this case, Fifth Ward in Houston.
Okay, my question is like there is normally a case like they do the zoning and there is the lower income bracket right there next to expensive tax-paying neighborhoods or whatever, however they want to say it. So why it never happened in that area? How's that possible?
It's a classic not in my backyard scenario, right? I mean, all of American life is based on where the siting of different stuff is and in whose backyard those things will be in, right? And systemically, it's always been the place for low-income minority communities to be the ones stuck in those environments and then being exposed to toxins and air pollution and particulate matter and all those, and lead exposure and all those things that impact the quality of life in those communities. And this is a case in point.
Okay, my next question would be like when we are talking about what is like you are part of Clean Energy Fund. What is that? How does that work?
Good question. So
incorporate in this scenario.
Absolutely. So the Clean Energy Fund of Texas is the state's first nonprofit green bank, and so we are able to deploy resources and capital to make improvements on homes, on communities, to clean up the environment in those communities, right? And so it's tied into this because this is a three-staged or three-legged monster, right? We have the impact of environmental justice, where there's exposure to pollutants and carbon and toxins. We have the extreme weather events now, where these are the same communities that are impacted by flooding and other types of extreme events. And then you have energy burdens, where these are the same communities that whose families pay a lot more of their income just to turn on the power, just to turn on electricity than other parts of the state. And so you have this three-leg monster where these communities are dealing with all three of these things at the same time. So what the Clean Energy Fund of Texas seeks to do is reduce those energy burdens so that the cost of power, of electricity, resembles the cost that everyone else has, and case in point. Poor families end up paying between 6 to 20% of their annual income on just turn on their lights.
Just to turn on their lights, heating or cold.
Exactly.
Or
the average family only pays like 3%, right? And so there's a staggering discrepancy there. And so being able to make changes to your built environment, which means, retrofitting your homes with more insulation or LED lights or
and
solar.
better windows or solar.
There you go. Exactly.
And,
you begin to push down that cost of power. And so you add that to also replacing coal-fired power plants with solar arrays and utility scale solar projects to reduce the amount of carbon emissions in communities. And then add to that battery storage where that you are storing power in the event of an extreme weather event. Right? So you're instead of your power going out
because
first and longer.
I agree with your point, because in Kashmir Garden and Fifth Ward side, they said there used to be a coal plant where mostly the community members used to work over there. So it existed over there, because I haven't been there personally, so I need to, like I was telling you before the show, like I need to go and see it myself.
I would absolutely encourage that, for sure. Yeah, and it's not just that area. I mean, if you look throughout the United States, particularly in the Gulf Coast, you're going to find that wherever there is a petrochemical facility, wherever there's a coal-powered power plant, whether there's a LNG gas export facility.
Like Baytown, like when you move towards Pasadena and Baytown, those are the areas.
It's going to be black and brown people in all those places. And the reason why it takes so long is because justice takes a long time. Right? And because justice also means that there's a reparation attached to it, right? So it's one thing to find a problem. There's
Yeah.
another thing to repair that problem. And so it's the repairment of the problem that's going to cost a lot of money. And so it's in the interest of those causing the problem to run out the clock for as long as they can.
Yeah, because then the lobbying comes in, the money comes in.
Yeah.
It's exactly like NRA probably, because there's so much money on that side, like they cannot campaign. So this is basically exactly happened. This fifth ward, exactly.
Sure.
Like when did you guys come to know about this? Like, hey, this is happening, or you have been hearing about it for a while? Or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. It's been known for a while, right? And it's always a situation where there seems to be a trend, and I'm not going to say coincidence, but more of a trend, where you start noticing that there is the propensity of same illnesses, whether it's cancer related, respiratory related, heart disease and stroke related, but it seems to be concentrated in this single area. And there's other parts of this region where the same can be said. There's in Chasewood, for instance, just in East Fort Bend County, there's a high propensity and incidence of cancer in some of those communities as well. And folks are still trying to figure out what's causing it.
Yeah.
But clearly it's something in the environment that is different there than other parts that you don't see those same impacts, right? And so by word of mouth, you begin to connect the dots that something's happening.
By word of mouth. So
Right.
there's no research done on the area.
Initially, right? Until there's enough of a noise made, enough of a ruckus made to draw more attention and to bring in those resources to begin doing the studying and figuring out exactly what it is that's causing these trends that folks have observed.
I mean, okay, so my next question would be, if the neighborhood is that poor and underprivileged, that they don't even know most of the time, because half the time we don't even know what we're eating, because we're just tired, we are busy, we just want to make our ends meet. I mean, like you said, these are another level problems. When they want to eat healthy, they want to stay healthy, a regular person is just too tired and tied up with their own ruckus in life. So by reaching the word of mouth and just figuring it out, like, hey, because I was reading on Channel 2's report, and they said, like, the kid, there is this neighbor whose kid died of leukemia, and now she suspects that the child died because of that. And then there is another person, he said, like, his mom died because she died of cancer, but they thought maybe she just had it, because cancer is rampant. It's like it can happen to anybody anytime. So I mean, I agree with you, like it must be, this is sad.
It is sad, and I want to turn the point of view around, not from the family's responsibilities to figure it out, to the industry's responsibility to inform the families that they may have had access or exposed to different types of cancer causing toxins as well. And I think that is the scary part of the story, is that someone knew somewhere,
definitely knew,
that part of this rail operation included using chemicals that, if it seeps into the soil, could impact the life of folks who live close by. But they chose not to say it because they chose profits over people.
Definitely.
And I think that is that's the story that we need to get out, that we cannot allow industry to continue to choose profits over the people, and allow for the people to have a voice at the table, to be a part of the process in determining whether or not an industry can be cited in their communities.
Yeah, well, Stephen, you know, like you were talking, and it just came to my mind, like I saw this documentary, Dope Sick, and there's Purdue Pharma over there, and they made billions and trillions of dollars. They just kept making their museums and this and that and little programs, and they were killing everybody. And this has been found out now. But let me take a very quick break. Let's just go on a very quick break. We'll be right back. We've got Stephen Brown with us, so he's going to tell us more about the environment in Houston, Texas. Stay tuned.
During the Move Up sales event at Big Star Cadillac, upgrade your luxury for just $1 down. Move up to the new 2023 XT4 Luxury Collection, $379 a month for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase and enjoy $1,000 bonus cash. Let Big Star's Cadillac to your door bring you a concierge test drive. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop at Big Star. Shop BigStarCadillac.com.
There is a road laid out for me.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Leading down to the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
What do you think?
I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free, take me down to the river and walk.
Hey! Okay.
If you love me enough to tolerate my perfect little pets and all their glorious dander, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat. Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back. Like I said, we have got Stephen Brown with us. Thank you, Stephen, once again. But before going on the break, we were just talking about let's worry about the people who knew it was happening in the area and they never did anything about it. Let me point it out that they have released this, Union Pacific, and they did not say that the testing would begin when and how and when it would be, the results would be available, because Union Pacific has owned the site of the former rail yard since 1997. So after the results of the city test were released in last year in September, Union Pacific said that attributing the dioxin solely to operation at the rail yard was unreasonable and inaccurate. So this is what they could come best to. Do you have any information like what happened after that? Like what did they do from there?
Well, I do know that most recently EPA has announced that they will do another round of testing as well, right? And so it's fortunate that we do have a Environmental Protection Agency who is on the case, as you are aware. The Administrator Michael Regan was in town not too long ago, and he did a personal tour of Fifth Ward and other parts of the Gulf Coast. And so, you know, we have some assurance from the EPA that testing will continue and that these voices will continue to be empowered and uplifted, which is very important that these communities have voices, and which is important why, you know, obviously, you know, you will want to visit with some of the community members as
because
well.
we, as long it's okay, it's like that. Like if you're part of a community, it could be your community or my community, but if it is your community today, tomorrow it will be my community, because it's not going to stop right there. So I mean, like, okay, testing is one part, but we have been hearing about it since last year. So what has happened so far? Nothing. It's just testing going on. What about the compensation for the people and all that?
And that's a good question. I think that will definitely be a matter as we move forward, and how the community organizes around a legal strategy as well, because clearly harm has been done. And I think obviously the railroad's delay of, you know, their critique of any findings thus far is a demonstration not to show negligence in this matter. And so we're gonna have to wait and see as the wheels of justice moves along, to what extent there will be a reparation for the damages that have been done to these communities.
So you think it's going to it's still in the process? Okay. The company
but the question though is, you know, there is a certain thing is being too late, right? I think that
that was my point actually, because
yeah.
if somebody is suffering,
right.
For them to pass one day is, I know the wheel of justice is taking its time, but what about them?
Yeah.
You cannot bring the lost one already.
Right.
You cannot bring your parent, your family member, your child
Right.
from the clutches of cancer.
Right.
It's a scary word, you know. So
It is.
I mean, like, what about any other agencies, like the medical agencies or anything? Are they going there? Are they providing any sort of treatment? Any sort of something like that is in your knowledge or something?
No, I don't know, but I do know that the party that is negligent, it's in their best interest to slow down those wheels of justice, right? And which is why this is important for this to be a topic on your show, so we can keep this issue in the news, keep it on the front pages, keep it up
front pages.
Exactly.
Because the most important news which is required for people, which is directly hitting us, is always at the lower level. It's like we worry about what's going on federally and things like that, but we do not worry about our neighborhoods, the drinking water we are drinking, the environment we are living,
but
the air we are breathing.
And to your point though, what happens in one community can easily happen in ours as well, which is why it's important that we all rally behind this community and show them the support that they need and deserve, because as they're waiting, you said it yourself, that as they're waiting, they're suffering, right? And so the suffering isn't delayed because justice is delayed, right? And so we have to make sure that whatever types of support mechanisms that can be provided as a community of humans, that we are empathetic and we provide that type of support.
Do you have any information, like have you witnessed, like their residents has also complained that there is a tar-like substance popping out of the ground? Have you witnessed anything like that?
I have not seen anything like that, but I don't doubt it.
Because when I was just writing my question, I was like, that is scary. This is something like I don't wish to see, because then people are just, because you know your water lines are there, your groundwater levels are there, and you're just drinking it. And okay, moving towards my next question, it's like there's a obviously Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. They are holding off their plan to approve this, but there has been a spending since 2014, and we are still in the testing phases.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's sad, and unfortunately, we don't have a state government that is ambitious as it relates to protecting citizens from air and water pollution.
Why aren't they interested?
It is because they feel that it's a pro-business environment, a pro-business government that we have at the state level. And that's where change needs to happen as well. Because, you know, you mentioned earlier, there's a local level that is always ignored, that we have to do a better part in bringing attention to what happens at the local level. There is a state level layer as well, right?
Yeah, of course, because everything goes and stops there, because this is where the wheel of justice starts, probably.
But imagine, if you would, a consistency between Houston, Texas, and DC, where all three of those layers of government were as aggressively attacking this and approaching this problem.
It wouldn't be on since 2014, you know. So that would be, we would have reached in Fifth Ward, we would have reached a solution somewhere.
Well, and between 14 and now, we've had even DC's changed twice, right? And so that lack of a consistent partner at the state and federal levels also impacts the time through which justice can really be done.
So what about the city council and all that? Because Letitia Plumer have been involved in it, and a lot of other people have been involved. What are they doing?
But there are limits. You know, there are limits to the power that the city has, right? And in most cases, TCEQ at the state level, EPA at the federal level, are going to have a lot of say in terms of what the next actions will be, right? And then you factor in a legal part of the battle as well. And it's going to be the legal part is where justice will actually be done. It is the regulatory capacity to find out what happened, who caused it.
So in this case, EPA has the most power, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
EPA has resources to be able to
find solutions to this problem.
Exactly, right.
And then comes the state. At the city level, these are limitations, like they cannot do.
Well, and I do believe that Mayor Turner has taken action on this issue.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they even sued Union Pacific as well,
they
right?
have
And
done
so
that. Yeah.
they are looking at whatever levers of power they have on this as well. But I think, to my point, this works best when there's a consistency at every level.
At every level.
And we haven't had that in this case, which is why it's important for the bad actors to run out the clock, because they know that the longer it takes, the more disjointed the campaign is to bring them to justice.
I mean, I remember watching the movie Erin Brockovich, and I saw her struggle for all those years, and then for the Ohio train derailment, she came forward and she gave a statement, and I was so moved because I remember watching that movie. And is anybody working on a documentary or something like that in that area? Like they might just bring that forward, like I was mentioning Dope Sick and Purdue Pharma thing. So is somebody working on those lines?
I don't know, but that would help to tell the story.
Tell
me. And look, I don't want to diminish the steps that have been taken thus far in getting this story to where it is today, to the point we're talking about it on your show, right? And I do want to commend the Administrator Regan and Mayor Turner and all those folks who have listened to the community and are doing something about it.
Yeah, because apparently there is Sandra Edwards as well, one of the 5th Ward advocates who has been calling for more action, said she was be happy about the news, but expected more actions to come. You know?
Right.
So she has been, I guess, taking part. Thank you so much, Stephen,
My
for
pleasure.
giving us time and coming at such a short notice and giving me opinion about that. I know it is slow, but as NTV America and Truth Be Told, my show, I just want to use my platform for just pushing this agenda forward because people need it, community needs it.
That's
Thank
great.
you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you
so much. Someone has dropped the ball out there, and authorities need to go back and pick it up before it is too late for our community living there. Thank you for watching Truth Be Told with me, Sophia Jamal. Have a great week.